Hi, I'm Katie Quinn from Lilliput Stores in Stony Batter in Dublin 7. Today I'm going to be cooking crispy rissoles. A risole is mashed potato that's been boiled, breadcrumbed and then fried. It's a dish that I grew up with. My nanny used to make it all the time when I was a kid. We used to have it at tea time. But this recipe that we're going to make today is more aimed towards brunch and breakfast time. So we have our scallions ready for chopping. So what we want to do is you want to top and tail them. So you chop off the heads and then chop off the tails. So now once they're prepped, you can start chopping. So okay, once your scallions have been chopped, then you take your spuds and you combine the two of them. You want to get your knife and then you can scoop your scallions onto the knife, being careful that you keep your hand away from the blade, and then lift them over and tip them into the bowl. You also want to make sure that your hands are clean before you actually start to mix them together. So once it's nice and combined, you want to taste it, and at this point you can do any last seasoning if you feel like it needs more salt or more pepper or even more scallion. So once it's combined and seasoned in the way that you like it, now it's time to ball them. So I have a pan here that I'm going to ball my potato into, and you grab just a handful, as I said, 50 to 60 grams worth, and you ball them. You can ball them quite roughly, like that. So once they're balled and ready to go, you can clean down your bench. So get rid of anything that you're not using. And then you can start getting ready to breadcrumb them. In a bowl, you want to whisk your 2 eggs. And your eggshells can go into the compost as well. When you're whisking eggs, make sure to keep your wrist nice and loose, and they'll whisk quicker for you. Okay, that looks about done to me. So you don't want to season your eggs, because once you start putting salt into it, the egg will start to separate. But you do want to season your flour and your breadcrumbs. So once your eggs are whisked, then you get your flour, and you add a bit of salt and a bit of pepper, and you just make sure that it's nicely mixed through. Same with your breadcrumbs. It's okay if you still have messy hands, you can dip in and out of these ones anyway. So salt and pepper again, and mix through. Once everything is seasoned and your eggs are whisked, you're now ready to start panning your mashed potato. Panning is also another word for breadcrumbing that we use in the kitchen. So what you want to do is you want to have your 3 bowls in front of you. I like to start by having my eggs in the middle, because the egg is the one that I'm dipping into the most. So we'll start by boiling it just one more time, just making sure that there's no real lumps or bumps or anything like that on the potato. And then you start by dipping it in your egg. And I should say, actually, you want 1 clean hand for dipping in and out of the dry ingredients, and then 1 wet hand for dipping in and out of your egg. Okay, so now that it's nice and coated all the way through, I'll put it into my seasoned flour and make sure that it's coated. This is really important, because you want to make sure that you're encasing the mashed potato. So once you start frying, and if it's not coated correctly, it's going to burst. Okay, now that it's nice and coated in egg and flour, I'm going to put it into my breadcrumbs. And then with my dry hand, just make sure to coat it one more time. So then you can put it back onto the pan and start with the next one. We're ready now to start frying. Make sure you're very careful when you're dealing with hot oil. I make sure that my handle is pointed away from me, and so that my apron or anything isn't going to get caught in it when there's hot oil in it. Wait for 2 or 3 minutes until your oil gets nice and hot, and then after that you can start to add your rissoles. Turn every few minutes, but when you're turning them, make sure to turn them away from you, away from your body. You want each side to be a lovely golden brown colour before you take them out of the pan. Now that these are gently cooking in the background, you can start by roughly chopping your kale. And it doesn't have to be precise. You can chop any way you like. In a large sauté pan, you want to heat your olive oil and set it over a medium heat until your olive oil starts to shimmer. So you can add your kale to the pan now, and you can turn it up to a high heat. Then once it's hot enough, you can add your water. Then use a spoon or a tongs to toss the greens in the oil and the water, and then cover for 5 to 7 minutes. Once that's done and your kale is nice and wilted, remove your cover and continue to cook, stirring occasionally until all the liquid has evaporated. Another 1 to 2 minutes, I'd say, would do it. Season to taste with salt and pepper, add vinegar, and then toss to make sure everything is combined. With the poached egg, you want to start by cracking your eggs into a small saucer. In a pan, you want to bring your water to a gentle simmer with a small dash of vinegar in it. Don't add any salt, as this will break up the egg white. Tip the egg into the saucepan and cook for 3 to 4 minutes. So lift out the egg with a slotted spoon and drain it on kitchen paper. So now I'm ready to start plating my eggs. So I start with a bed of kale, and then I go in with my 3 rissoles. And I place my egg right on top. And then you can add salt and pepper to garnish. And I always like to add a little bit of olive oil as well. It creates a nice shine to the plate.